Welcome, this is Jennifer McGuire. If you've watched my videos recently, you know that I am completely addicted to foiling. I promise not to make every video have foiling, but I do have one more for you today. I've shared many ways to use foil in previous videos, which I'll link to, but today's is something that I think you really will like. Today I wanted to show you how to add foiling to die cuts. This is a great technique and so many things that you can do with it, and I actually have 3 different ways of doing this technique, and I'm going to show you all 3 today in this video. Now for all of the projects, I will be using ThermoWeb's Deco foil. However, there are many different types of foil out there right now that are great. I just like the quality of this, the fact that there are 5 sheets in the tube, and the price is pretty good. Let's start with our first technique, and this is using printed toner cardstock. So there's something magical you can do with foil. If you print something with a laser printer onto cardstock, put foil on it and run it through your laminator, the foil will stick to the printed areas. This is something magical that happens with laser printed only. So if you don't have a laser printer, you can take it over to any office printing store, Kinko's or whatever, and they can print it for you. I thought I would take advantage for that today with this die cutting technique. So I created a PDF that just has a large block of black, so that when this prints on a laser, I end up with this large area of toner, and that's the stuff that sticks to foil when you run it through the laminator. So I printed this sheet, and I can save this for later. You don't need to do it right away. I just printed it onto white Neenah cardstock. Any cardstock will work. And I'm going to cut out a piece that is big enough for my die cutting today. Again, if you don't have a laser printer, just take this to an office supply store. We'll have a download for you to download this large area of black that you can print, and you can use this for your die cutting. So I have this Paper Smooches Roses die. I'm just going to die cut this rose from that printed black cardstock. So now I have a rose that's covered with black, which doesn't look great right now, but we're going to add foil to that. So all that black that you see there is laser toner right on the cardstock. So now I have this laminator. Any laminator or the Heidi Swapp Mink machine would work for this. And I have let this get good and hot. I have let this heat up for about 20 minutes. I like it to be super hot when it's time to use it. And I have my rose with the black printed on it, and a piece of the Deco foil in this melon color that I think is just beautiful. That is a piece of folded parchment paper that you see there. You could use a piece of folded typing paper if you want to, but I found that the parchment paper really holds up longer. So I'm laying the foil with the pretty color side facing up right onto our black laser printed rose. I put those pieces into the folded parchment or folded typing paper, and I just feed it into the front of my laminator and let it take a few seconds to come out the other side. So this is applying heat and pressure, which makes that foil magically stick to that toner. There's something about laser jet toner that makes the foil stick when you apply the heat. So you can see how beautiful the results are. Just a nice, shiny, super shiny die cut. And that is thanks to the magic that happens when you laminate foil onto something printed with a laser printer. Now, if you don't have a laser printer or a way to get to something that's laser printed, here's another technique for you. So this time I'm going to create heat embossed paper and add the foiling. So I have the same card here. It's going to give us the same look. This is just another way to do it. To create heat embossed paper, I'm just taking white cardstock and I'm smushing onto it some Versamark sticky ink. Then I am going to add some ultrafine clear embossing powder. I find that ultrafine powders work best for this, but you could use regular powder if you want to. And you could really use any color powder for this. I just think clear works well. Now I'm going to go ahead and heat this so that I actually heat emboss all of that powder. So I have a large area of heat embossed paper. Now it's time to go ahead and die cut that embossed paper. So I'm using the exact same die, putting it right onto that embossed area and running it through my die cut machine. So basically we have a die cut that's covered with clear embossing powder. Now I again have my parchment paper ready to go. I have my die cut with the heat embossing facing up. I'm going to take my foil with the pretty color side facing up, close that into my parchment paper. You could use typing paper again if you wanted to. And then I'm going to run this through my laminator. Again, I let this laminator get good and hot so that it really applies a lot of heat and pressure to this. Now, when I take it out the other side, I'm just going to let it cool for a second and then peel it off and check that out. The embossing powder kind of heats up and sticks to that foil when it goes through the laminator. So on the right is the one done with the heat embossing, and the one on the left is the one done with the toner. The looks are very similar. I think the toner is a little bit smoother, but the results are very similar. Now I actually have a third technique. Now this third technique allows you to actually do the die cut foil shape directly onto the paper. Those other die cuts we have to glue onto the paper. This actually takes that die cut shape and sticks it right to the paper for you. For this technique, I'm using a product from ThermoWeb called Hot Melt Adhesive Sheets. Now this allows you to actually put foil on fabric if you wanted to too. Now when I say adhesive sheet, it's not actually sticky to the touch. It will adhere once we heat this up. So I'm going to cut a piece of this Hot Melt Adhesive Sheet to be bigger than my die cut here. And let me show you what the surface of this adhesive sheet looks like. It's a little bumpy there, but that will smooth out when we heat it. And on the other side is some release paper. Now I have a piece of parchment paper here ready to go. I'll show you what we're going to do with that in a moment. And with this Hot Melt Adhesive Sheet, I have the release paper on the back, the adhesive side on the front. It's not sticky once again. And I'm going to lay parchment paper right onto that. And then die cut this. The reason I put that parchment paper in between is this keeps that Hot Melt adhesive from kind of sticking in the die cut. It kind of gets stuck there when hard to take out. But that parchment paper in between keeps it from doing that. You could use typing paper if you want to also. Now I'm going to carefully take this out, and you'll see that you get this clear die cut shape of that Hot Melt adhesive. So I'm just going to pop out all the pieces of release paper and all the parchment pieces that are there, and you'll see this very thin die cut. And it's not sticky, so it doesn't really stick to itself, but there we have our die cut shape, and we can add that to any project. So I have my white cardstock here that will be the front of my note card. You can see that shape. I'm going to stick it right on where I want it, lay it right where I want it on the white cardstock. And I'm going to lay the foil with the pretty side facing up right over it. Put that into a piece of folded parchment paper or typing paper and run it through my laminator once again. Now this will make that die cut shape of foil stick directly onto our background, whereas the techniques we did earlier, you just put foil in a die cut and you'd have to glue it onto your card. It's just a different look. It's just something fun and different that you can do. And look how beautiful that is. I just love the results of this. And again, you can do this on fabric, which I think is so much fun. So let me show you all three of the roses so you can see how they all look. That one on the bottom left is the toner rose. On the right is the heat embossed rose, and the top one is using that hot melt adhesive. Now before we move on, I wanted to show you how to do the hot melt adhesive technique with two different colors of foil, because you don't want to really run foil back through the laminator after you've done it. So what I did here is I die cut a rose from that hot melt adhesive, and if you look, there's also a little leaf off to the side that I cut down and I stuck right next to the rose. So what I'm going to do is actually run both colors of foil through the laminator at once. So I'm cutting a small piece of this lime green foil, and I'm laying that on top of the die cut of the leaf. Then I'm going to take some of the melon foil and stick that over the rest of it. It's okay if it overlaps. Whatever's on the bottom is what will stick when it goes through the laminator. I'm going to carefully put that into the folded parchment and run this through the laminator. The reason I'm doing the rose again here is that you don't want, after you've added the foil rose to your paper, you don't want to go in and add the leaf then, because it kind of muddies up that first foil rose. So you want to do any multiple colors of foiling all at once and have it go through the laminator at one time. So I just wanted to show you that for this technique. Now with the die cuts, it doesn't matter because we're just going to glue them on top afterwards. But you can see here how this is smooth right up against the paper, and it's just beautiful. Now that I've showed you the three different ways that I like to add foil to my die cuts, I wanted to show you those opal-looking stripes that you see on the sides of the card. I did that with foil and stamping. So I actually used an older stamp from Simon Says Stamp. This is actually a holiday set, but it works for all year round. And I'm going to stamp that striped border stamp on both sides of my white note card. I'm going to do this for all of the cards that I'm creating. So I have my top folding white note card that I created. I'm going to stamp this border stamp on the two sides of this white note card along the two edges with Versamark ink. So you won't be able to see the ink, but that's okay. We're going to add some embossing powder to it in a moment. So I'm going to stamp both sides first. And now again, as I showed you before with the heat emboss technique that I showed you, I'm going to use a super fine clear embossing powder. This one happens to be from Wow. And I'm going to add that to both of the stamped borders. Again, you can try other embossing powders, but I really think a fine works best. And I'm going to go ahead and heat set this as if I were just doing some regular old heat embossing. So I'm heat setting both sides. So all I have is a clear embossed striped border image on both sides of my card. I am going to add strips of this opal deco foil. This is a deco foil just like the other foils I've showed you, but this has this opally look to it that is just beautiful, especially on dark cardstocks, but even on white. So I'm going to put the 2 strips over the heat embossed areas that I've done. I'm going to put this into a piece of folded parchment paper. You could use a folded typing paper once again, and I'm going to feed this through my laminator. Now, what I've discovered is that putting it in the parchment paper or typing paper doesn't allow enough heat to get to the foil and embossing powder to make that stick all that well. So what I found is after it's gone through, I'm going to take the parchment paper off and I'm going to feed it through once without adding that parchment paper. The reason I did it first with the parchment paper is I didn't want those pieces of foil to get stuck in my laminator. So that first go through with the folded parchment paper allows the foil to stick just enough so that the second time that we run it through, the foil won't get stuck in my laminator. I've never had it get stuck in my laminator when I've done it, but I just wanted to show you this technique in case you were afraid it would. Then you peel off the foil and check out that gorgeous opaly shine that you get on the edge. I just think it's gorgeous for a nice tone-on-tone background. Now, I will say, if any powder got anywhere outside of those stamped images, foil is going to stick to it. And I didn't use my powder tool to prevent the static that causes that powder to stick where you don't want it. So I'm going to just use a craft knife to just scratch away any of the extra foil that is where I don't want it. It's very easy to scratch that away, and that will clean it up quite nicely. It's time to put our card together. I did create some green foil covered leaves that would look good with my little rose here. So I put some adhesive on the back of my rose and I'm adding those leaf die cuts to the back of that. And I'm cutting away any extra that will be seen through the rose. If you wanted to, you could glue these to white cardstock, but I kind of liked that these die cut shapes were open. So once I have my leaves and my rose all assembled, we're going to just go ahead and glue that on to the white background piece. It's amazing how beautiful these die cuts are with that foil on it. If you don't have foil, you could use embossing powder, but the shine just isn't the same. Okay, so then I added a stamped greeting. This is a You're So Thoughtful stamped greeting from Simon Says Stamp. I'm just stamping it with black ink underneath it. I think when you have all this foil going on, you really don't need much else on the card. Now I wanted to add this with some dimension to that note card that we created. So I'm going to cut a piece of craft fun foam, which is just white foam, to be slightly smaller than our background piece. I'm putting adhesive on the back of our background piece, adding that foam piece to the back of that, and then I will glue this onto our card. And that foam will allow that entire piece to be popped up. You could use foam tape for this, but I found that with big pieces like this that you want to raise, they last through the mail better. They survive through the mail better if you use a solid piece of craft foam back there. Now to finish off these cards, very simple. I just added some Hero Arts medium and small pearls to it, and that's it. So there you can see the foil die cuts that we did with the toner paper and the embossed paper. And of course, the third technique of using the hot melt adhesive to put the die cut directly onto your card. I hope this video inspires you to combine your foil with your die cuts. And if you are interested in the products that I use, I always link to many sources in my YouTube description below, or you can go to my blog at jennifermcguireinc.com where I'll have much more information. Thanks always for stopping by, and I hope to see you back soon.